find other great podcasts like this one at podmoth.network.
Does anyone need to pee?
I was going to go make a cup of coffee real quick.
Yeah, go for it.
It is 40 degrees in my bedroom right now.
Oh, that sounds delightful.
Yeah, it's so great.
Oh.
I've had the heat running for 3 hours.
Oh, that sounds less delightful.
Why your room no heat?
I don't know.
Is it because of the holes that I keep on tapping into your walls while you sleep?
Can you fucking stop tapping holes in my walls?
Okay, so you could say that now, but the other night you were just like, dude, I wish there were more holes in my walls. Or at least I thought you said that.
Okay, real shit. So the other day I was hanging out with a buddy of mine on Discord, and we were just hanging out playing a game, and I hear this in my walls, and I'm like, what is that noise?
It's me.
Am I going actually crazy?
It was me.
To be fair, the friend I was sitting with is schizophrenic, and he's like, I think I hear them too, trying to egg me on. And I was like, don't do that. So I take my headphones off, and I have noise canceling headphones, and I can hear it in my walls above my bed.
Oh.
And I'm like, okay, I think I'm going crazy. I'm going to try and record it and see if I can hear it on the recording.
Mm-hmm.
So I hold my phone up to my wall, and you can hear it clear as day. I sent it to my roommate, and I was like, hey, are you home? Are you hearing these noises? He goes, no, I'm not home. I haven't been home all day. And I was like, no one's home. I'm alone. I'm hearing noises in the walls. What is that noise?
I think I can conjure an explanation for
Ah!
So I go outside. I check the outside perimeter of my apartment building. Nothing. I see one bird on the top of the roof, and I'm like, there's no way this noise is coming from one singular bird. But ever since I recorded it, the noise stopped.
Oh.
Hasn't come back.
So
I've
it was
been
either
bashful.
that bird or a passing ghost.
Or maybe
There is
rats?
there's a 6-foot difference between my roof and, rather, my ceiling and the roof of my apartment building.
Interesting.
It would have to dig into the roof, into my walls. Mania.
Oh, that's
It's a ghost
creepy.
thing. Yeah. I think it's a ghost.
Ghost.
I'm sorry,
Oh.
but you're haunted.
Oh, just wait. I'll make a cup of coffee real quick, and then I'll be right back.
In olden days, a glimpse of femur was only for morbid dreamers, but you're not alone. Bring anything bones. Two goofy gals with deathly interest go on a skeleton inquest in your headphones. Anything bones.
Welcome back to Anything Boyfriends, the podcast where we talk about bones and boyfriends. I'm sorry, that's so cringe. Hi everyone, welcome back.
Each of us have 206 bones and one boyfriend.
Actually, you can flip that number for me, please. I have 1 bone and 206 boyfriends.
I knew it.
I'm glad we recorded this on your day, Chris.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. The truth all comes out.
Oh my goodness. This is the very beginning of the Netflix documentary about Katelyn's extensive harem of men and the crimes that go along with it.
Also, the scientific documentary of the one bone.
The one bone!
Of the one singular full body bone.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, it's impressive.
Extremely malleable. It's basically rubber. It's much like an infant's body. But you know what's not like an infant's body?
What?
Possession. Okay, so I've got a little tale to tell. It's not a researched story. So listeners, I beg of you, bear with me. If you're not one who believes in the paranormal, this story might not be something that you enjoy, which is fine. But these are personal accounts of my possession when I was 12 years old.
Holy shit!
So turn down those lights, light a couple candles for your seance, because it's time to get hot, heavy, and maybe hallucinogenic.
Dude, I can't believe I've known you for this long and this has not yet come up. Oh my god. This is insane. I'm so excited.
I told Katelyn, if I'm ever on the pod, I have one thing that I definitely want to tell people about, and it's my possession story. So, I'm gonna paint a little picture for you all. The year is 2002.
Oh.
I'm 12 years old,
Oh my god.
living in Richmond, Virginia, with my grandparents. They have a beautiful 2-story home in a small, little, idyllic, little residential neighborhood. I have a few friends, not many to speak of, in this current town that I just moved into. But my sister's an extremely sociable person. Loves talking with people. Loves introducing new people into her life. Now, me being a very, very quiet youth that I was, sticking to my video games and my Magic the Gatherings, I decided to peruse upon what she was doing for one of her sleepovers, and they brought out a particular game. Now, some of you may be familiar with this Milton Bradley special, Ouija, the board game.
I know it.
My family, we're not from the United States. We're originally from what my grandmother would call the old country of Lithuania.
Nice.
Where we were goat farmers, and we were a very nomadic people. And if you ask anyone on my mother's side of the family, we are also very cursed.
Oh shit. How did that happen?
I don't know. All I know is that in the 1800s, my family tried to flee from some tyranny, and they were cursed.
No.
And it affects everyone in my family in one way or another. My great-grandfather, bless his heart, died in a goat field. Herded goats for about 40 years of his life. Heart attack, killed by his goats. Very strange.
Very strange indeed.
Like the goats killed him?
The goats trampled upon his body
Oh.
for about 13 hours.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
The goats.
The goats. Some might say they weren't the goat.
Some would
Sir.
say that.
This is bad, but I was trying to think of a way to
This
incorporate
story
that
is great,
joke.
but you're on thin ice.
So let's fast forward a little bit. Now that you know that my family in general has been cursed, I decide to go bother my sister and her friends with this Ouija board. I said, you know what? I want to play because this little old Chris with his little cherub cheeks said, I've never heard of this game before. How do you play? So we go up to an upstairs bedroom and we turn down all the lights, and they instruct me on how we talk to people who aren't there. Now I'm a very spiritual person. I of course believe in ghosts and the paranormal and the paranorman. But more importantly, so does my sister. We sit down and we open up this conversation, as many people do. If you are unfamiliar with Ouija boards in general, there is a little planchette, a piece of wood with a viewfinder in the center, which at least 3 people will touch with their index and middle fingers, and the quote-unquote spirit will guide the answers using that planchette. We decided to open up this conversation and see who we could find. And being children, we didn't quite understand what spirits would be out there for good or ill, benevolent or malicious. So we open up this line of conversation. I don't recall the name of the individual we were speaking to, but what I do remember is that while we were going through our questioning, I could see certain shadows among the ceiling molding in the room, which, if you're 12, that's terrifying.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's pretty terrifying regardless.
Yeah, I was gonna say that would scare me now.
Yeah. So we, again, through our questioning, I'm seeing these things, and I say, "Hey, I'm getting a little scared. You know, I'm just a little guy. I'm getting a little spooked."
Oh, you are just a little guy.
Him's
Just a little guy. This is where things get a little weird, and I have to again ask you, listener, to take this with a grain of salt, because if you aren't one who is a believer of the paranormal, this is going to sound like the ramblings of a madman. So that being said, I don't remember any of the other questions asked because I blacked out for 4 hours.
What?
What I do remember is waking up in the middle of my front yard, cold as ice. My sister tells me that I was running around saying nothing, just various babble. I don't know what I was saying. She doesn't know what I was saying. No one can confirm what words were being used. Some might say incoherent babble of a child, but some might say mayhaps the speech of something else, something darker, more sinister, or a sugar rush. No one knows.
Well, but
That being
if
said,
you
though,
don't remember it, like...
How many fucking pixie sticks did you have before this?
Yeah.
I was just shooting. I was doing lines of the stick. No, I blacked out from that point for about 4 hours or so, and I woke up, like I mentioned, in front of my grandparents' lawn, and I don't remember anything about what happened, but I was told that I was acting very strangely, and then ever since then, I had stroke of bad luck for as long as I can remember. My mother fell very ill. I had a lot of issues with memory. I had a lot of really awful things happen to me over the course of, say, 10 years. And so I was like, you know what? Me, as a brand new adult in this world, I'm going to start doing some research into this. So fast forward to when I'm 25, and I'm sitting down with a person I work with when I was working for a government-adjacent agency, and she says, hey, just so you know, my family were also nomadic, and if you want, we can try and do a process to unlock some of these memories. And I was like, that sounds really cool. Let's do that.
Yeah.
So we sit down, and it's not like a weird hokey ritual where we're lighting a bunch of candles and she has to have a crystal ball. It's more of we're just sitting down. She goes, okay, I'm going to try and hypnotize you. I was like, cool. All right. Never been hypnotized before. Don't know if it'll work, but we'll see. That being said, I am successfully hypnotized. She used the little pendulum stopwatch kind of trick, hypnotized completely from what I'm told, and I start seeing flashes of kind of what I saw when I was a child, or so I believe. Memory's a very weird thing. Sometimes we supplicate memories with our imagination. That's the way memory works most of the time. But the one thing that really stands out to me is a bunch of imagery of these cold, dark steel bars on a cobblestone walkway with a mist rolling through. And talking with her about this and sort of what I've seen, she explained to me, she goes, that may have been something you've seen previously, like elsewhere. I was like, well, I've never been to England. I've never been to a place that resembles that kind of feel. So that doesn't make any sense. And she explains, oh, well, maybe it could be astral projection. Have you ever had lucid sleeping before? Have you ever been able to transcend the essence of yourself? And I was like, no, I've tried lucid dreaming before. It doesn't really work for me. You know, I've been vastly unsuccessful. And she goes, well, do you ever see things? And I was like hallucinations? No. Do you ever see things out of the corner of your eye that you turn, they're not there? She goes, oh yeah. I sometimes see like specks of light or things like that. And she goes, well, lo and behold, you may have been possessed. And I was like, oh, that's weird. What does that mean for me 10 years, 12 years later? And she tells me, nothing. There's nothing you can do about it right now. Because from her understanding, whatever was around is no longer around. Because at this point in time, my luck had improved. You know, I was able to, my memory had been returned to its normal faculties. No issues with trying to remember certain aspects of things. I've gotten a lot better at we'll call it academic knowledge. But it's definitely very strange to think about, because when we think of things like Ouija boards, we think of things like, oh, you're gonna see like horrible imagery of demons and ghosts and ghouls and goblins. But it's a lot more esoteric than that, because if something is, as for me, mundane as possession in that regard, where you're just seeing images or your mind is taken somewhere else, it's very scary, very interesting. And I've always wanted to sort of like do some more research into it, but unfortunately it does require a bit more, we'll call it practical application. by which I mean I'll probably have to go back to using a Ouija board, which would be the first time in many, many years.
I don't want you to use the Ouija board.
That sounds like a lovely date, Caitlin. I would love to know how it goes.
Don't you dare bring a Ouija board into our new place. I'll die.
Listen.
Bless the place.
Here's the thing, paranormal fans out there, you'll have to hit us up in Instagram comments.
Smash
once
that
this
like
episode
button.
airs. Smash that follow button. Smash that like button.
Smash it.
Hit the bell for your notifications. Make sure that you leave a review on iTunes, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts.
I'm leaving that in.
But what's important to know about Ouija boards is that it's all about setting ground rules. Step 1, and I'm not saying use a Ouija board. I'm saying if you happen to be knowledgeable and are comfortable with any effects that may come from it, good or ill, you have to follow 3 simple rules. 1, ensure that you are in a safe place of sound mind and body. Ensure that you're not going through a depressive episode. You're not feeling manic. You want to make sure that you are at your peak mental performance. Take those Joe Rogan pills.
No.
Don't do that.
Don't do that.
Step 2, whenever you open the portal, whenever you say hello or open communication with any spectral spirit, you want to ensure that A, you are polite. They're
Yeah.
people, or were people, perhaps. And you want to make sure that you close that communication as well. You say goodbye. You say, I am no longer speaking with you. Stop that from happening. And one thing that some people have recommended to me in the past, this isn't a thing for me, but for some it might be a little bit more appropriate. If you are a religious person, people often say summon forth your guardian angels to offer guidance. Some people that's ancestral. Some people that's very literal guardian angels. For me, that's an ancestral thing, but everyone's different. Find what makes you comfortable, things like that. I can't stress it enough. You gotta close that communication. You gotta nip that in the bud because you can't have them lingering around
Yeah.
Yeah.
for good or ill. Good or
Yeah,
ill.
exactly. You gotta say goodbye.
Say goodbye.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
Thank
amazing.
you so much for sharing
Yes.
that. That was astounding.
I'd never
I-
heard that one before.
Really?
It was-
Okay, that was
it was
fresh for
saved.
all of us.
It was saved for the
Ooh.
podcast, and I'm
Wow.
I'm speechless.
I did mention that I had a Ouija board story.
Well, yeah, I feel like it came up very early on in us dating. Somehow we were talking
Mhm.
about spook. I'm sure we were talking about weird shit, and I've done a Ouija board once, and you were like, "I've done one too, but I'll never do it again." I was like, "Oh, okay. Do
Yeah.
you want to talk about that more? Maybe not."
So here's the thing. I've done the Ouija board. I've had my little bout of quote unquote possession. I've lived in 8 haunted houses. Like I said, my family's been cursed for a long time. Like there's a bunch of stuff with the paranormal in me. I'm no stranger to it, and I'm all about it. I definitely subscribe to the idea that the paranormal's all around us. Ghosts, real. Ghouls, real. Goblins, who knows? Trolls, absolutely. And you never feed those guys. Not after midnight.
Much like gremlins.
Yes.
Much like gremlins.
Or it's not gremlin. What's Gizmo called?
I think it's gremlins.
He's a gremlin.
He's a gremlin, but don't they become gremlins? He's a mogwai. He's a mogwai.
Mogwai.
He's a mogwai. That's what it is.
Love that band.
Yeah, mogwai is a great band.
Listen to Mogwai, everybody.
Oh yeah, mogwai gets a huge shout out from the boyfriends of this podcast.
Absolutely.
Mogwai
Absolutely.
is sponsored by the boyfriends of this podcast.
Yeah, Sophie, I've never heard of this. Have you?
Mogwai?
I think you both will. have by
Gremlins?
today.
Yes, it's from the movie Gremlins.
Who's Mogwai?
I think it's this.
Mogwai's a band,
Okay.
but also, the cute little gremlin?
Sure.
Gizmo.
He's a Mogwai. He is an Mogwai. And when they come in contact with water, they become gremlins.
Okay, maybe.
Well, and if you feed him after midnight.
Then also
Okay,
gremlins.
I'm sorry. It's been quite a long time since I saw Gremlins, so maybe it's time to revisit.
It sounds
Yeah.
like it's time to have a movie marathon of all the Gremlins movies.
You can do this on the Ouija date.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, can we come back for a second to the possessed child?
Yeah. I'm now opening the floor to questions.
Okay, good, because I got some. And so you were running around. You said for 4 hours you blacked out.
Yes.
That, and you were just like saying,
Who knows what?
You were like speaking in tongues, kind of, one might say.
One could say that.
One could say that. What was done after that? Like, were your parents home during this time, or you were living with your grandparents?
I was living with my grandparents. My father was estranged at that point in time, and my mother was sent to an intensive care due to some alcoholism and heavy drug use.
But were your grandparents out at the time?
I don't recall if they were in or out. I know that it happened around like 7 or 8 o'clock on a weekend. They may have been getting dinner sometime.
Was there talk of banishing you to a like a Catholic orphanage after that? Like,
no, surprisingly not. So my grandfather was Catholic, my grandmother was Lutheran, and I would still go to church afterwards.
Oh,
like after the fact, and no adverse effects.
Yeah,
that I could tell.
No sizzling, no smoking.
No sizzling. There was one instance where I was going to a Christmas lights event here in Portland.
Mm.
And I did recall my eyes burning, but I think that's because someone spritzed me with something.
Oh.
And I think someone was spraying perfume or something. I was like, man, my eyes are really burning coming into this room. Totally unrelated.
The devil spritzed you.
The devil spritzed me.
It was the
with his
devil.
ode to hell.
Ode to hell.
That's Conjuring 5. The devil spritzed me.
Can we film it at a
Someone get
mall?
Blumhouse on the phone.
Yeah, the devil works at one of those kiosks and they just spritz you.
The devil works at Macy's.
Yeah, oh man. The devil works at Macy's would be a great title for something. But that
was
thank you for
wild.
sharing
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that was
Absolutely.
insane. That was wild.
What did your
I would love. Go ahead, please.
What did your sister do? Like during the 4 hours?
Absolutely nothing.
That tracks.
Really?
Did she freak
She left
out?
me out there. Apparently, I was laying down out there for at least 30 minutes.
Was she
Awful.
freaking out?
I have no idea.
I imagine that's terrifying.
She had her friends over at the time, so it's like I have no idea what they were doing.
They're just like, he's interrupting fucking girls' night. All right.
Yeah, basically, they had Lizzie McGuire to watch. Okay,
Oh yeah.
Don't we
That
all?
is pretty important.
We can't compete with Hillary Duff. It's hard. It's
I
hard.
never
Who
tried
can?
to.
Who can?
Who
not,
can, honestly?
Not a soul.
Not a
Wow,
soul in the world.
Chris.
yeah.
So you say that you might go back to Ouijaing at some point. Would
At
you?
some point in time,
What would your intentions around that be? Would you be trying to figure out what happened in the past, or would you be looking to like recontact with what you had
I
contacted
think
before?
for me personally, it would be one of two things. I would want to do two things here. First one is finding out if the resident spirit is still around.
Yeah.
That's the big one.
Mm-hmm.
And the second one is essentially just trying to learn more about spiritualism in general, because that's always a huge interest of mine, is knowing what else is past death, if there is anything.
Yeah.
But it's always interesting. It's always interesting to really think about. But I don't know. There's a lot of unknowns when it comes to that kind of thing, and just trying to learn more is always interesting to me.
Wow.
Wow, babe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow, babe, indeed.
I have tons of weird stories like that if you guys ever want more.
We want more.
Want more.
We
yes.
want more.
I would love more. I don't want to like take up the rest of the podcast being like, and so like when you unlocked your memories, like.
Also, side note, have you seen the movie Possession from the 80s?
No.
Oh,
No, I haven't.
Sam Neill and Isabella Gianni. It's like a Polish movie. It's really wild. You should check it out.
Yeah.
It's weird as shit. Do you remember the bits that you saw?
A bit, yeah.
It's weird.
Oh my god, wait, was that the one with the
With Sam Neill, like from Jurassic Park.
and the like
And the tentacle thing.
the tentacles,
Yeah.
yes. Oh my
Okay.
god.
All right.
It's
You got me on the
fantastic.
hook.
Pop that
It's
one on the
fantastic.
list.
Oh
It's-
Pop it
yeah.
on the list.
There's a warning. It's a weird one.
I
but
woke up from
I
a
love
nap
it.
to this movie and was like, what the fuck are you watching?
All right.
Beautiful.
Heard.
hard to explain.
Heard chef.
Yes, chef.
All right.
Well, you are welcome anytime back on the podcast to tell more stories of the supernatural, because you have me absolutely transfixed with this story, because like childhood is such a weird time. Like you were saying, your like memories and dreams and hallucinations all kind of mixed together to become like one, amalgam of, childhood. And so it's interesting to dive back into that from a paranormal perspective.
Yeah, definitely. And I'll leave it up to your very faithful listeners if they want to have me back. I have several stories that I would love to talk about. The face in the ceiling, the fact that I had, from what I understand, precognition until I was about 17.
What does that mean?
Oh, being able to see the
Oh,
future.
God.
He's a fucking Minority Report.
I am Tom Cruise.
He is Tom Cruise.
You're
I am
Thomas
Tom
Cruise
Cruise.
ship?
No. You're the three.
I'm moving all the screens around with my hands,
Yeah.
looking for that weird ball,
the wooden ball.
The wooden
the
ball.
weird wooden ball.
But you're also the three people in the
the
water,
tub.
in the pool.
Absolutely. I am 4 people, and one of them is Tom Cruise.
Well, that was... I think that was fantastic. Yeah.
We all
Hats
do.
off to you. Yeah.
Welcome to the Ugly Radio on the Podmoth Network, a lo-fi sci-fi audio theater anthology series made for late nights and strong drinks. Join us monthly as we broadcast a pirate signal across time and space, featuring stories, songs, and frequencies from a rotating list of voice actors, writers, storytellers, and musicians. If you're looking for high-quality science fiction, skin-crawling horror, and other genre fiction, listen to The Ugly Radio on the Podmoth Network, now available wherever you get your podcasts. The Ugly Radio. See you in the void.
Well, should I finish her off with a little something something?
Fucking please, Caitlin.
Okay.
We have touched on folklore, historic shipwrecks, and the paranormal. So where are you going to take us?
I'm not far off from any of this.
You never are.
Chris, you mentioned earlier that you were into cryptid culture, which set me up so perfectly, because I knew that. So I'm going to tell you all about the famous New Orleans Rougarou.
Rougarou!
I had a feeling you would know what this was, but I kept this a total secret from Chris, so I'm excited to tell you about this.
Oh my god.
I went to New Orleans a couple years ago, and I did a vampire tour. I did a cryptid tour. I went through the Devil's Highway. We went to the Crossroads, and I wanted so bad to go experience a Rougarou walk. Oh, I'm so excited. I'm so pumped.
I don't know what this is, so I'm super excited to find out.
Yeah, I'm curious as well.
Yeah, so this, first off, few sources, Atlas Obscura, PelicanStateOfMind.com,
Ooh.
and Wikipedia.
Always try and be in a pelican state of mind.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I'm pretty sure, I didn't super look into it a ton, but it was a really helpful article, but I think it was like a blog on a credit union or something. Like, it was just,
Amazing.
it was super obscure, but like very like useful information.
All right.
What? I mean, I have found weird accurate articles about archaeological digs on like resort websites before. Like,
Yeah.
it's weird.
Shout out to blogs, you know?
Yo, shout out blogs, though?
Remember those, everybody? All right, so the Rougarou is a centuries-old figure, or cryptid, if you will. But it mostly comes from medieval France and has made its way to Louisiana.
Oh.
So what is a Rougarou, you might ask? Well, typically it's basically a werewolf. It's a humanoid creature, so it can stand up on 2 legs and then like the head of a big wolf or dog.
Cool.
So 16th century France, there were a lot of bad things going on back then. Famine, disease. And then there were also these things called loup-garous, which basically means werewolf in French. So like something would happen and everyone was like, oh, I know who did it. It's the local loup-garou coming in the middle of the night and stealing my sheep or whatever the fuck.
Not them again.
Yeah, the French were big on werewolves for a while.
Oh, yeah.
Super big on werewolves.
As they should be. Werewolves are amazing.
But okay, so this is not so nice. But that people would like blame the loup-garous for all these things, and then they would grab random people in the village that they thought was a loup-garou and like hold this public trial where they're like, hey, does everyone think this is a loup-garou or a werewolf? And everyone was like, yes, I vote yes. And all of them are just like wanting to avoid getting the same fate themselves because, like, you know, you speak out, maybe you're a loup-garou assistant or
Yourself.
Some shit. Like,
You're a cub.
Yeah, you narc.
Yeah, seems very witch trials-y.
It reminds me of witch trials for sure. So this is a like widespread fear for many people in France at this time, and it's passed down through the generations. It also kind of mixes with religion in some ways. So French Catholics said that you would turn into a loup-garou if you didn't follow the rules of Lent for 7 years in a row.
Whoa.
Yeah, you aren't a good Catholic, so werewolf.
You know, that's one I have not heard before.
That's different. That's different for sure.
Oh, we've got a little loup-garou down here.
Oh yeah, is it the corgi loup-garou?
Nah, it's the big boy,
Oh,
the German Shepherd
giant.
dog.
Not the fairy warhorse.
Yeah.
But the werewolf.
He'd be like one of those elephants from Return of the King. In a fairy battle. Yeah, the Oliphants, excuse me.
Put some respect on the name, okay?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Were they not the bad guys? Anyway.
Are you saying that elephants are bad guys? That's kind of messed up, okay?
You've talked me into a corner here, Caitlin.
Let me continue. We'll breeze right past it, okay? A common, like, story with the loup-garous is that parents would tell their kids, like, oh, you know, you've been really bad today, so, like, you better watch out or the loup-garou is gonna come snatch you and take you back to the forest.
That's fucked up.
Yeah, so it's like a behavioral tool, and, you know, so people are telling it to their kids, and then those kids are telling it to their kids, so it's just going, and we're just getting all these different iterations of loup-garous and their mischievous ways.
Like a non-seasonal Krampus.
Yes, always around.
Yeah.
So when many of the French started migrating to Canada and the southern United States, the loup-garou, or the legend of the loup-garou, also traveled with them. So in the southern United States, they use the Cajun dialect, and, quote, this dialect is a mix of French and English and well known for changing words completely to roll off the tongue easier. So the name of the beast changed from loup-garou to Rougarou, which I like the change.
I'm a big fan of Rougarou.
Yeah.
Rougarou.
It does flow off the mouth better.
Rougarou.
I'm really curious if it has anything to do with a Louisianan roux, which is a cooking method.
Who knows? I don't. I didn't look that up. I'm sorry.
That's fair. Okay.
Heard, chef.
Heard, chef.
There's another like story about the Rougarou that they are under a 101-day curse unless they can transfer the curse to another person, make another person a Rougarou.
Oh.
It follows.
Yeah, so there's a legend. There's one legend where a boy of some age was out for a walk, and he had an oyster knife with him, and I assume an oyster knife is pretty small because oysters are small. And he encounters a Rougarou, and he stabs the Rougarou trying to defend himself. But then he himself becomes a Rougarou. The curse is transferred because he cut him.
Oh, that's, ain't that the way?
How terrible. Like, you're just on a walk, and then suddenly you go through this traumatic event, and then you're a fucking werewolf. Like,
Dems to breaks.
You didn't ask for this.
No, nobody did.
Do you think he was on a walk to eat oysters?
It's
Maybe
very
he just
possible.
got done eating those oysters on his walk.
Ooh. Do we think this was a pre-oyster attack or a post-oyster attack?
I'm voting post oyster.
You're thinking he had a full tummy?
I'm thinking he had a full tummy. He was so brave.
Big brave boy with big brave tummy, you know? Yeah, my ladies, how do we feel? Do we think this was a pre-oyster attack or a post-oyster attack?
Well, were there any shells found at the crime scene?
You know, sources could not confirm or deny that, so we can just take our best guess. And I'm going to say post, because, you know, oysters give you all this power. And so he had the power to stab the Rougarou, but then it backfired on him.
Okay, valid point. I'm going to go the opposite way and say that it was pre-oyster because he was so hungry. He was fighting. He was using that hunger to fight and survive.
He was like, I'm getting these oysters, and no Rougarou's going to stop me.
Yeah, my grandmother cooked these oysters. I'm going to shuck the fuck out of them.
And then he shucked the fuck out of that.
Yeah, and then he did it out of the Rougarou.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you got to shuck a fucker.
This is my favorite part of the legend of the Rougarou. Apparently, allegedly, you can protect yourself from a Rougarou. I'm going to tell you how. You can put 13 small objects in front of your doors because Rougarous, for some reason or another, can't count past 12.
Damn.
Ooh.
And so they try to count them and they are unable to, so that you've distracted the Rougarou enough you have enough time to get away.
Damn.
So there's actually a really cool Chinese myth about vampires that is kind of similar, where if you drop a bag of rice in front of a vampire and all the rice on the ground, myth has it that they have to sit and count every grain of rice before they can continue their hunt.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you're ever being chased by a vampire, you might get away if you just drop that bag of rice. Drop those groceries.
There's also, again, all the folklore is sharing so many elements, is like southern, like haints. They're like kind of like witches, but to deter them, you put a broom in front of your house and she has to count the bristles.
Oh,
okay.
Interesting.
So everybody agrees counting is distracting.
It is, yeah.
It's perfect.
Some creatures just like have to count. They have a need to count.
Yeah, so if you
a
ever
compulsion.
Yeah, if you ever finding yourself in the presence of a strange creature, why not try throwing a bunch of shit on the ground and seeing if they gotta count it?
Yeah. Empty
true.
your purses, ladies and theys and thems. Anybody that has a purse, empty it on the ground.
Or satchels.
Or satchel. A backpack. Anybody can do this.
Yeah.
It's a tried and true method.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this is just like kind of an interesting ending note. So a part of New Orleans, the Terrebonne Parish, where a man named Jonathan Foret grew up, and he had spent his whole life hearing about the Rougarou and being afraid to go out into the woods because of the Rougarou. And then he became a middle school teacher, and he asked his students about the Rougarou, and nobody knew what it was. So he felt like this part of the culture was disappearing. And at the same time, over the last century, New Orleans and Louisiana has seen so many hurricanes, sea level rise, and development projects. They dammed the Mississippi River, and basically Louisiana has lost more than 2,000 square miles of land. So he's created an organization that's looking to change that path in Louisiana of losing all this land. And he also talks about how this cryptid is a part of their culture, and the Rougarou is losing its home, so you have to save the Rougarou's home. I don't know. It's just a delightful way to
That's
get
cute. Yeah.
young generations involved, not only in a part of their culture, but in saving the planet. I don't know. I thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah, no, that's wild.
I love that though, because that has a stronger hold on the imagination than Save the Toads.
Yeah.
I love toads, don't get me wrong, but I think when you tell the children about the Rougarou and then you're their habitat's disappearing, they're oh my god.
Yeah. So he started the South Louisiana Wetlands Discovery Center, which is a nonprofit that educates students in the classroom and on field trips about the challenges of sea level rise, climate change, and living in a coastal community. And in 2011, he launched the Rougarou Fest, which is in Terrebonne Parish's largest city. And it's a fundraiser for the center and a way to, like, keep the tradition alive of the Rougarou. And I like this kind of ending. So, quote, "This is an example of the way cryptids evolve alongside the cultures that created them. The Rougarou once served to scare adults into being good Catholics and children into staying home after dark. Now there are other things to be afraid of, like rising water levels and hurricanes. The Rougarou is like our Smokey the Bear. Only you can prevent forest fires, and only you can save Louisiana's wetlands."
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
That is nice.
Okay, I have a few pictures, some iterations of the Rougarou to share with you guys.
Love it.
So let me
Very
pull
nice.
up a group chat on Facebook. Okay. This one's pretty tame. This one, I believe, was on Atlas Obscura. Very CGI heavy.
That is just a werewolf in a swamp.
Yeah, like a video game werewolf in a video game swamp.
I love
Yeah,
it. I love
GTA werewolf in the swamp. All right, let's see this other one. Oh, that's scary. Okay.
Oh,
This
yeah.
one reads more werewolf.
Yeah,
More
definitely.
menacing, but also he could be like looking and reflecting on himself because he's by a pond.
He's just
That's true.
thinking about his life's actions. I should have never hurt that werewolf with my oyster knife.
If I hadn't stabbed this guy, I could be eating oysters right now.
All right, number 3.
I love that.
Oh
That
my.
is just Killer Croc.
That is very Killer Crockish.
That is just DC's Killer Croc mixed with King Kong.
Yeah,
Yeah.
There's some monkeyish qualities to the face.
definitely.
Yes.
Really long
And
claws.
It's the nose.
This
it's
is
the
not a
nose for
werewolf.
sure.
This is not a werewolf.
This is Swamp Thing's cousin, Swamp Thang.
Hashtag not my werewolf.
Hashtag not my Rougarou.
Not my Rougarou.
Rougarou, option number 2 is my favorite right now.
Yeah.
Are you sure?
The first one.
Are you sure, though?
Oh, is there another one? Holy
One more.
moly.
Yes.
I love that. Okay. This is a person in a costume.
Oh, God,
I
yes.
hope this is at Rougarou
That
Fest.
is not. That is a
Rougarou
Rougarou.
Fest.
That is a Rougarou in its purest form. That's not a human.
Sorry, pardon me. This Rougarou, which has the proportions of a guy in a homemade suit, is terrifying.
It's just a trick of the light.
Swamp gas.
Swamp gas.
Yeah, it's swamp gas.
We were just talking yesterday about our mutual love of swamp gas.
Yeah. It's cover up for everything.
Yeah.
Well,
Aliens, werewolves,
So-
Swamp
Resident
gas.
Evil 7.
don't worry, listeners. I'm going to post all these pictures on Instagram and Facebook so you can follow along and know what we're dealing with here, Rougarou wise. That's the Rougarou for you.
Love it. Love it so much.
Yeah, that's a new
Big
favorite
fan.
cryptid.
Yeah. Huge fan.
Good. Me too.
I like that he's saving the environment, but also if you're
Yeah.
bad, he will drag you away.
Yeah.
He will drag you into a swamp.
Yeah.
Keep the
That you saved.
keep the wetlands
That
nice
you
and big
saved.
so you can keep your distance from Rougarou. Okay.
Yeah.
We cannot lose any distance between us and Rougarou.
Everybody, thanks for coming on the podcast, Joe and Chris. This was just a delight.
An
Yeah.
absolute delight.
Yeah, no problem at all.
Well, this has been so much fun having you guys on and getting a bony boyfriend's perspective. The supernatural story that you told, Chris, I will be thinking about for the next forever.
Yeah, that's going to occupy the mind.
I'm glad I could haunt your dreams.
Yeah, thank you for that.
I can't wait to ask your sister what she experienced, if she knows.
I don't know if she'll
Okay,
remember.
I want to find out though.
Okay.
I also
might.
want to find out.
I'll text you guys.
Yeah, keep us updated.
Yeah. It is also just so annoying when your siblings don't remember your trauma.
It's so great when that happens. It's so awesome.
So
and I
validating.
love that it keeps happening.
Oh, Kuno doesn't like that.
Or he
It
agrees.
was like, trauma? Everyone should pay attention to your trauma.
Yeah.
can be broken.
It's important.
It's
It's how
important.
we heal.
Oh.
Gosh.
All right, you gotta take care of that dog, so we only have one thing left to say all together as we end every podcast. Bone.
Goodbye.
Thanks for having us.
Goodbye.
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 Thanks for listening to Anything Bones. Follow us on Instagram or Facebook at Anything Bones Podcast, or email us at anythingbonespodcast@gmail.com.
Thank you to Nick Kruger for our spooky music and Stephen Vetteroff
At Chubby Scrubby on Twitter,
for our jazzy vocals, and thank you to Camilla Franklin
at Camilla Strader on Instagram.
for our beautiful bony artwork. Please rate, review, and subscribe.
Lewis, are you gonna share a story?
Oh.
Morph.
There he goes. His sweet little butt.
Sweet little fairy butt.
These fairy war dogs. Hey,
Boys.
Boys,
what
please.
enemies are afoot?
Please, boys.